bring in Sami Al-Arian. You direct the Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Zaim University. Because it's day one of Ramadan, I think we need a little bit of a reminder here that Israeli control of access to Al-Aqsa Mosque for Muslims is one of the things that creates the most resentment of Israel really throughout the Muslim world.
Correct, and it's been happening now since 1967. Not only that, but they also annexed Jerusalem to Israel, and now they're restricting even access to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they wanted to have a division between certain places and time between Jews and Muslims, and of course Muslims insist that this is a holy site just for Muslims.
Now, what do you expect during this month of Ramadan?
Well, I expect more problems because this is the way it's been for the past many years. Israel always will have some kind of instigation for people. Right now, we are even at the highest level of tension because of what's going on in Gaza. So people are trying to calm things down, particularly the Americans. They don't want to incite or more incitement in Jerusalem.
Well, Netanyahu seemed to have no interest up until right now in calming things down. However, on this specific issue of access to Al-Aqsa Mosque by Muslim worshippers, he chose to de-escalate. His National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, was saying, let's restrict very heavily access to Al-Aqsa Mosque. And Netanyahu said, no, actually, I'll side with the advice of Shin Bet on this, which is saying, keep it the way it's been.
We'll see, because what Netanyahu is trying to do, he's trying not to restrict Arab Israelis from coming to the mosque. That's what Itamar Ben-Gvir wanted.
Yep.
But in terms of the West Bank, there are still many restrictions on males, particularly between the ages of 18 and 45.
Yeah, and I was speaking to a member of the Waqf, the Jordanian custodian of this holy site, of this religious site, and he was telling me, if you're in your 20s or 30s in the West Bank, there's no way you're getting access to Al-Aqsa. That's
true, and that's the way it's been for the past few years. Since Netanyahu came to power, it's even been more restrictive than before.
Talk to us about ceasefire negotiations, if I can get you to pivot to that. In the run-up to Ramadan, there was some hope, primarily really hope expressed by the Americans, that that could generate some momentum towards a ceasefire. Clearly, that did not happen.
Well, the Americans have been pushing pretty hard. The CIA director, William Burns, was here in Doha the past few days trying to push for this. But the differences between the two parties are very, very wide. On one hand, Israelis do not want to commit to any kind of ceasefire. They're willing to stop the cessation of hostilities for 6 weeks in order to get whatever captives they can get during that time. And of course, the other party, the resistance movements, don't want to concede this because this is the strongest card that they have. So that has been a sticking point, the major sticking point about the commitment to ceasefire, but also on the terms of the withdrawal. The Israelis don't want to withdraw. They're willing to go around the outskirts of Gaza, even within Gaza itself, but they're not willing to commit to total withdrawal. And then on the issue of, for the refugees to go back to their houses, particularly in the north of Gaza, they have been adamant that they will not allow, again, men between the ages of 18 and 60 to go back, which means it's a disaster because women cannot take care of themselves. But also, on the issue of the number of captives versus the number of Palestinian captives and prisoners. That has also been a sticking point. The resistance has been asking for 10 per 1 on the civilian side and 500 to 1 on the soldiers. And the agreement, the interim agreement, is to release 40 civilian Israelis and 4 female soldiers. So the resistance has been asking for 2,400. The Israelis said this is not going to happen. So the Americans trying to negotiate something somewhere in between.
This is the question of the ratio of how many Palestinian prisoners released versus how many
So the Americans understand that the ratio has to be different, particularly on soldiers. So there's going to be somewhere in between, let's say, 400, 500, and 2,400.
Well, for the moment, though, the two sides seem to remain as far apart as they ever have been on the issue of a new ceasefire. But we'll, of course, continue to monitor that very closely. Sami Al-Arian, thank you very much for joining us this hour.
Thank you.